AITA for telling my sister that she can't dictate how I raise my child, even though she means well. This is a long one, and I honestly still feel conflicted, but I'm leaning toward thinking I was right. I, 32F, have a 3-year-old daughter, Lily. My sister, Claire, 36F, has always been a bit controlling, though she claims it's helpful or out of love. Our parents passed away a few years ago, so it's just the two of us and our families now. For context, Claire has been married for 10 years and has 2 kids herself. She's always had strong opinions about parenting, marriage, and basically everything else in life. Lily is generally well-behaved, but can be shy and a little stubborn at times. I've been trying to raise her to be empathetic, confident, and independent. I let her explore her interests and express herself freely. She also has a pretty strict bedtime and a structured schedule for meals and learning activities because I work full-time and it helps keep her happy and healthy. Claire, however, has completely different ideas about parenting. She's very relaxed. Her kids run around, eat sugary snacks whenever they want, and sleep whenever they feel like it. She believes that rules stifle creativity, and she's always saying things like, "You're raising her wrong," or "Kids just need to be free." The problem started a few weeks ago. I had invited Claire and her kids over for Saturday brunch. I had prepared some pancakes, fruit, and a small craft activity for the kids. Claire immediately started criticizing everything I was doing, saying my pancakes were too bland, that I shouldn't be limiting sugar, and that my craft activities were forced creativity. I tried to shrug it off, but then things escalated when it came to Lily. Lily didn't want to participate in the craft at first, and Claire immediately swooped in and tried to convince her to do it by herself, while basically ignoring my instructions. When I intervened, Claire said, "Come on, let her make her own choices. Don't force her." I calmly said, "I'm not forcing her. I just have a routine, and she'll participate when she's ready." Claire rolled her eyes and muttered, "You're too rigid. Kids need freedom." Later that day, I caught Claire sneaking candy to Lily, even though I explicitly told her no sugar until after lunch. I got frustrated and told her firmly, "Please don't give her candy without my permission. I set these rules for her health and well-being." She looked offended and said, "You're too uptight." I just wanted to be nice. The next morning, Claire called me and started lecturing me about how I was controlling Lily and how my rules would make her rebel or lack independence. She went on for over 20 minutes. I finally said, "Claire, I appreciate your concern, but I'm raising my child my way. I understand you have different methods, but Lily and I have our own routine and rules, and I need you to respect that." That's when things got really tense. Claire accused me of being judgmental and not valuing family wisdom, and said I was alienating her from Lily. She hasn't spoken to me much since, and when I asked if she wanted to come over this weekend, she said she might reconsider, and left at that. I've been feeling a mix of guilt and frustration. On one hand, I know Claire genuinely believes she's helping and has raised her kids successfully. On the other hand, I feel like she's crossing a boundary that isn't hers to cross. I don't want to fight, but I also don't want to compromise my parenting principles. My husband, 35M, says I did the right thing and that Claire needs to accept that Lily isn't her child and that I set the rules. He also says Claire might just be projecting her parenting insecurities onto me. Some friends have said I could have handled it more diplomatically or let her have some influence to keep the peace, but I worry that would only lead to Claire undermining me more. So AITA for telling my sister that she can't dictate how I raise my child, even though she believes she's just trying to help. Edit. Some clarification. Claire has always had a very strong personality, and family gatherings often involve her correcting or giving unsolicited advice to everyone. I usually let it slide, but when it comes to Lily, I draw the line because I don't want her confusing Lily about what's acceptable or safe. Another edit. Some people asked about why I even invite her over. Honestly, I love my sister, and I want Lily to have a close relationship with her aunt. I also thought it would be possible for Claire to be involved in Lily's life without undermining my rules, but clearly, that's proving difficult. Final note. I'm not opposed to Claire spending time with Lily. I just want it to be on terms that respect my parenting decisions. I feel like asking for respect shouldn't make me the villain. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to help my sister plan her wedding after she publicly insulted my parenting choices and accused me of being a bad mother. I, 34F, am a mother of 2 children, ages 6 and 3. I've always been very conscious about how I raise them. Screen time is limited, we focus on healthy eating, and I have strict routines that help my kids thrive. My husband, Daniel, 36M, and I are very hands-on and intentional parents. And while some people have criticized us for being too strict or overprotective, we've been happy with our approach. My younger sister, Rachel, 30F, got engaged last year. She is generally competitive and tends to compare herself to me. When she started planning her wedding, I offered to help with some general advice, thinking it could be a way to bond and maybe keep her from making costly mistakes. At first, it seemed like she appreciated the guidance, but very quickly, things took a turn. About 3 months into her engagement, Rachel began making passive-aggressive comments about my parenting. She said things like, "I can't believe you make your kids eat vegetables and not let them watch TV. They must hate you, or I don't know how you survive without letting them have sugar whenever they want." I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just teasing, but the comments started becoming more pointed and public. During a family dinner where Rachel brought her fiancé, she loudly said, "I don't know how anyone could be a good parent if they're that strict. I would never treat my kids that way." She continued for a few minutes, and everyone was awkwardly silent. My husband Daniel finally spoke up, telling her that our parenting style is our choice and that her comments were inappropriate. Rachel rolled her eyes and said, "Well, someone needs to say it. Maybe she's raising them wrong." After that incident, I decided to keep a distance, but Rachel still kept asking for advice about wedding planning, insisting she wanted my opinion on everything from color schemes to catering. I agreed to answer a few questions via text, but made it clear that I couldn't spend hours every day helping her plan. That's when she began making direct insults under the guise of friendly advice. She would send messages like, "Are you sure you know what you're doing? I can't believe someone who manages to ruin their kids' lives would plan a good wedding." Or, "Maybe parenting strictness has made you bitter and controlling. Be careful you don't do the same with your marriage." I was furious. I confronted her politely, telling her that these messages were hurtful, disrespectful, and unacceptable. I said that if she wanted my input on her wedding, it needed to be civil and focused on the wedding, not my personal life. Rachel ignored this and continued sending more insulting texts, some of which she copied to her fiancé and even my parents, trying to make it seem like I was overreacting. A month ago, Rachel asked me to come to a weekend getaway to bond and finalize wedding plans. I told her I wasn't comfortable attending because of the way she had been treating me. She accused me of being selfish and not supporting my own sister, and told other family members I was avoiding her because I'm jealous. I stuck to my boundary and did not go. Since then, Rachel has been telling people that I'm refusing to help because I can't handle seeing her happy and that I'm toxic. She's posted vague messages on social media, implying that siblings should support each other unconditionally and that she has been hurt by my behavior. Some family members have started questioning me, asking why I won't help her, and it has become stressful because I feel like I'm being punished for protecting myself and my family. I've offered to help in ways that don't involve being insulted, like reviewing invitations or helping with simple organizational questions via email. I've also suggested hiring a professional wedding planner, which would ensure she gets support without me being put in a situation where I am criticized. She refused all of this and insists that if I'm not helping personally, I am destroying her wedding experience. I love my sister and want her to have a beautiful wedding, but I also cannot tolerate her behavior, especially since she has attacked my parenting in front of family and friends, tried to publicly shame me, and continues to pressure me despite repeated boundaries. My husband is fully supportive, saying that I have every right to set limits and protect my mental health. I feel guilty because I want to maintain a relationship with Rachel and the rest of my family. But I also feel like her repeated insults and disrespect justify my refusal to actively help with her wedding. I worry that by standing firm, I'm escalating family tension, but I also know that bending to her demands would only enable more behavior like this in the future. So, AITA for refusing to help my sister plan her wedding after she publicly insulted my parenting choices and accused me of being a bad mother. AITA for refusing to babysit my younger brother after he got out of prison, even though my parents insist it's family duty. I, 28F, have always had a pretty strained relationship with my younger brother, Jake, 25M. Growing up, he was the classic golden child in my parents' eyes. Charming, funny, and apparently capable of doing no wrong. Meanwhile, I was the responsible, quiet one who got blamed for everything. It's not that my parents disliked me, exactly, but there was a lot of favoritism toward Jake, and it's something that shaped our sibling dynamic in ways I'm still untangling. Jake got into some serious legal trouble a few years ago. I won't go into all the details, but it involved embezzlement and a pretty nasty fraud case that ended up landing him a 2-year prison sentence. My parents were devastated, but they never stopped defending him, claiming that he just made a mistake and that everyone deserves a second chance. When Jake got out last month, my parents were ecstatic, obviously. They've been calling me nonstop, practically begging me to help him reintegrate into society. The problem is that Jake is extremely high maintenance and still displays the same manipulative behaviors he had before prison. He's out of work right now, doesn't have any skills that can immediately earn him money, and he refuses to live independently because, in his words, "I've been through enough. I deserve to be taken care of for a while." My parents have been suggesting that I let him stay at my apartment for the transition period and even offer to pay me, but here's the kicker. They expect me to babysit him full-time during the day, cook his meals, help him apply for jobs, basically act like a parental figure while still working my full-time job. I told them no, I can't take him in. I work a demanding job in finance. I commute an hour each way, and I don't have the mental energy to handle Jake's constant neediness. My parents' reaction was intense. They said I was being cruel, that I owed Jake because he's my brother, and that family looks out for each other. They also implied that because I've never had children, I don't know what responsibility really looks like, and that I'm selfish for thinking only of myself. Jake, meanwhile, has been texting me nonstop, alternating between pleading and passive-aggressive remarks like, "I thought you loved me," or "I guess I'll just sleep in the car, thanks for nothing." I tried explaining to both my parents and Jake that while I love him as my brother, I am not his parent. I am not equipped to help him navigate life after prison while also maintaining my own responsibilities. I even offered to help him find housing or assist with job applications online, but apparently that's not enough. My friends are split. Some say I'm completely justified. He is an adult. I am not obligated to take care of him, and my parents are being unreasonable. Others argue that this is exactly the moment to step up as a family, that I should put aside my resentment and step into a caregiving role, at least temporarily, to help him get back on his feet. Here's where it gets worse. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a family dinner and politely declined to make Jake dinner for him, and my parents went on a tirade about how I'm tearing the family apart and how Jake can't trust anyone else. During that same dinner, Jake tried to guilt-trip me in front of everyone, saying that my lack of support made him feel unwelcome and unlovable. It was humiliating. I ended up leaving early because the emotional manipulation was too much. I've been feeling guilty because, yes, he is my brother, and I do care about him. But the idea of taking him into my home and effectively becoming a live-in caretaker is overwhelming and frankly terrifying. I've seen what my parents do when they coddle him. It never ends well, and I don't want to enable any bad behavior. I did compromise by offering him some practical support. I helped him set up a LinkedIn profile, researched local temp agencies, and even scheduled an appointment with a career counselor. But apparently, that's not real help because it's not hands-on, day-to-day care. I'm not sure if I'm a jerk here. I feel like I'm drawing a healthy boundary, but my parents and Jake make me feel like a monster for refusing to take on a role I never agreed to. They keep framing it as family duty versus selfishness, and it's been eating at me. I've considered asking a therapist for advice because the pressure and guilt are affecting my mental health, but I also don't want to be alienated from my family if I continue to say no. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to babysit my brother after his release from prison, even though my parents insist it's my duty as a sister. AITA for refusing to let my mother control my newborn schedule, despite her saying she raised 6 kids and knows best. I-28F had my first child, a baby boy named Liam, about 4 months ago. My husband, Aaron, 30M, and I are first-time parents, and while it's been challenging, we found a rhythm that works for us. We follow a mostly flexible but structured schedule for feedings, naps, and bedtime. Our goal is to ensure that Liam is well-rested, fed on a routine that works for us, and develops healthy sleep habits. My mother, Linda, 55F, has always had strong opinions about parenting. She raised 6 kids, and while I respect her experience, she can be very overbearing and dismissive of other people's choices. Since Liam was born, she's been incredibly involved, sometimes helpful, but other times intrusive. A few weeks after Liam was born, she started suggesting changes to his schedule. She insisted he should nap whenever he wants and eat on demand, saying he's too young to be rigid. I didn't schedule my kids like that, and they all turned out fine. I explained that Aaron and I have a system and that it's important for both Liam and us to have some consistency. She laughed and said, "You're overthinking it. I've raised 6 kids. Trust me, I know what's best." At first, I tried to compromise by letting her play with Liam during his awake periods and to hold him when he was happy, but she kept overriding our instructions. She would pick him up when he was supposed to be napping, feed him when he wasn't hungry, and even wake him in the middle of the night because she thought he needed bonding time. I repeatedly asked her to follow the schedule and respect our rules, but she kept insisting that her methods were better. The breaking point came about a week ago. Aaron and I were planning to go on a short evening walk with Liam to get him some fresh air and help him settle for the night. We left him with my mom for about 45 minutes. When we returned, Liam was screaming, overtired, and cranky. My mother told us, "He needs to learn to go with the flow. Your schedule is too rigid. I've raised children, and this is completely normal." I was furious and explained that he had been crying because she ignored his nap schedule and forced him to stay awake. She responded by saying, "You're being dramatic. I know what I'm doing. You're just anxious because you've never done this before." Since then, she's been sending texts criticizing our parenting. Some examples include, "Your baby is miserable because you're too controlling, you're suffocating him with schedules, and you'll regret not letting him just do what he wants like I did with you." I blocked her from our baby's social media updates and asked her to stop showing up unannounced, but she ignores boundaries, sometimes showing up at our house anyway. Aaron supports me completely, saying that my mother's behavior is inappropriate and that we have every right to raise our child according to our rules. We've also talked about long-term boundaries, including limiting her time with Liam until she can respect our schedule. I love my mom, and I know she wants to help, but her insistence on disregarding our decisions is stressing me out and affecting my mental health. Some family members have weighed in, saying things like, "She's just trying to help," and "You should listen to your mother. She has experience." Others understand my perspective, saying it's our first child, and we have the right to set the rules in our own home. I've tried reasoning with her multiple times, but she frames it as me being controlling or ungrateful for her help. I feel guilty because I want my mother to have a relationship with Liam, but I also feel like I cannot compromise on sleep and feeding schedules, which are crucial for his health and our sanity. Aaron and I have spent countless hours coordinating routines and strategies to ensure that Liam is developing properly, and allowing my mother to disregard these plans could undo that progress. I've offered compromises. She can play with him during awake times, take him for short walks with supervision, and read to him, but she insists on controlling his naps, feedings, and bedtime. At this point, we've made the decision that any time she spends with Liam must be under our rules. She sees this as controlling and unreasonable, and she's now telling other relatives that I don't trust her and am alienating her from her grandson. I'm torn between maintaining a relationship with my mother and protecting our child's health, sleep, and routine. I feel like I'm being responsible, but my mom claims I'm being unreasonable and overprotective to the extreme. So, AITA for refusing to let my mother control my newborn schedule, despite her saying she raised 6 kids and knows best. AITA for refusing to help my sister after she intentionally excluded me from her wedding planning. So, this is going to be long, but I feel like the full context is necessary. I, 33F, have a younger sister, Emily, 30F, and we have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, we were extremely close, but as we got older, tensions grew around family expectations, career choices, and even small things like who got to host family gatherings. I wouldn't say we hate each other, but our relationship is definitely strained. About a year ago, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Dan. Initially, I was thrilled for her. I reached out immediately, congratulated her, and offered to help in any way I could. Emily thanked me, but then things started to get weird. I wasn't included in any of the initial planning stages. She didn't ask for my opinions on venues, themes, or even her guest list, which seemed unusual to me because we had always done those kinds of family things together. At first, I try not to read too much into it. Maybe she just wanted to do it on her own. But then I noticed she was including our other family members like my parents and her best friends in group chats and discussions, but I was completely left out. When I asked her about it directly, she brushed me off, saying, "It's nothing personal, I just think it will be easier if it's just me and my friends for the planning." That stung a bit, but I let it go, thinking I could still be supportive in other ways. Fast forward a few months, Emily asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was honestly surprised because I thought the lack of inclusion earlier meant she didn't really want me in that role. I accepted, albeit reluctantly, but I assumed my duties would be minimal if she wasn't really sharing plans with me. That's when things escalated. Emily's wedding planning was highly unconventional. She wanted a small, intimate ceremony at a rented forest lodge, followed by a DIY reception with a rustic bohemian theme. That in itself is fine, but she expected everyone, including me, to do significant work without proper guidance or resources. She asked me to handle decorations, which turned into her constantly sending me vague Pinterest boards and asking me to make it happen without providing a budget or supplies. I tried my best, but it was frustrating to be responsible for something so important without clear instructions. The breaking point came a few weeks before the wedding. Emily called me and said she had changed her mind about the reception decorations and now wanted a completely different aesthetic. This time, an elegant vintage theme. She expected me to redo everything I'd already done. I explained that it wasn't feasible given the time and budget constraints, but she insisted and accused me of not caring about her wedding. At that point, I told her honestly that I couldn't continue handling the decorations on her timeline without proper support. Her response was extreme. She told me that if I didn't do it, she would have to reconsider me as a bridesmaid. She also started bringing our parents into the conversation, painting me as difficult and unsupportive, which really hurt. I finally drew the line and told her that if she wanted a professional result, she should hire a wedding planner rather than expecting me to completely redo everything under unrealistic expectations. Things didn't end there. Emily went ahead with her wedding without my help. She hired a planner, and apparently, everything turned out beautifully. I didn't attend the rehearsal dinner because I felt excluded and didn't want to be around the tension. On the day of the wedding, I went, but kept my interactions minimal. My parents were visibly upset with me for not being more involved, but I couldn't help but feel like I was being punished for setting boundaries. After the wedding, Emily didn't thank me or acknowledge that I had tried to help, and she has since been cold in our interactions. She even posted on social media about how supportive her amazing bridesmaids were, but I wasn't mentioned at all. This has caused a lot of tension with our parents, who think I overreacted and should have gone above and beyond for my sister. I understand that weddings are emotional and people can get carried away, but from my perspective, I was being asked to take on a massive responsibility without support or recognition. I also feel hurt that my sister intentionally excluded me from planning stages and then expected me to step in at the last minute. I have tried to have calm conversations with Emily about boundaries and expectations, but she dismisses my concerns and says I don't understand the stress of planning a wedding. Now, months later, our relationship is tense. I see my niece and nephew, Emily's future children, and our parents occasionally, but I still feel like I'm walking on eggshells around Emily. Part of me wonders if I overreacted or if I should have just gone along with her plans to keep the peace. On the other hand, I feel like she unfairly put me in a situation where I had to choose between overextending myself and upsetting her. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to redo the wedding decorations and for setting boundaries with my sister, even though it caused tension with her and my parents. I'm genuinely torn because part of me wants to repair the relationship, but another part feels like I was being reasonable and protecting myself from burnout and resentment. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister's fiancé have a say in my wedding plans, even though he's paying for half. I, 32F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Alex, 34M, for about a year now. Our wedding is planned for next summer, and while I've been excited about it, it's also been an emotional roller coaster thanks to my younger sister, Jenna, 28F, and her fiancé, Mark, 30M. Let me explain. My family has a long-standing tradition of doing weddings their way. Growing up, I always dreamed of a small, intimate wedding, nothing flashy. When Alex and I got engaged, I shared my vision with my family, and they seemed supportive, saying it sounded perfect. Then Jenna got engaged 6 months later. The moment she announced it, things started to shift. Jenna has always been competitive with me, whether it's grades, career achievements, or even attention from our parents. Her fiancé, Mark, is very involved in everything she does, and they make decisions as a unit. I like Mark well enough, but I don't know him as well as Jenna, and our personalities clash a bit. He's loud, opinionated, and very into big, showy events. Here's where the tension started. About 3 months ago, Jenna and Mark offered to help pay for half of my wedding. I initially said no because Alex and I had our budgets set, but after they insisted, I reluctantly accepted. I told them I appreciated the offer, but that I still wanted the final say on all decisions. This is where Mark started to act controlling. He began sending me texts about the color scheme, the guest list, even the seating arrangements. He wanted us to use a different florist because he knew someone better, suggested we add a live band instead of DJ, and tried to push for a bigger, more expensive venue. I reminded him that Alex and I were ultimately in charge and that the money didn't come with strings attached. Mark said, "Well, since we're paying, I think it's fair we get a say." I told him no, and that if he was going to treat it like that, we would reconsider accepting his contribution. Jenna has been caught in the middle. She keeps apologizing to me and saying she doesn't want to cause problems, but she also defends Mark, saying he just wants to help. You're being unreasonable. I feel like she's not fully seeing how controlling he's being. Last week, I had a major breakdown. We were at a tasting for the catering, and Mark kept criticizing every dish. He made comments like, "This would be great for a wedding buffet, but is it really what you want? Or are you just being stubborn?" I snapped and told him that he wasn't running my wedding, and that if he kept interfering, we would return the money and handle it ourselves. The room went silent, and Jenna looked horrified. Mark left, saying he didn't want to ruin the day. Now Jenna is upset with me. She says I'm being ungrateful and making her choose between me and Mark. Mark has stopped talking to me altogether, and even though Alex supports me 100%, I feel like I'm the villain in this situation. I've spoken to my parents, and they're divided. My mom thinks I'm overreacting and that I should let Mark have some input because he's helping pay. My dad thinks I'm right and that a couple's wedding should reflect the couple's choices, not the wallets of family members. I don't want to hurt my sister, but I also feel like letting Mark control any aspect of my wedding, even a small one, would make me resentful for years to come. I'm trying to set boundaries, but everyone around me seems to think I'm being dramatic. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé have a say in my wedding, even though he's helping pay. Character count, 6,473 if you want. I can also craft a second version that's even more intricate, with multiple family dynamics and twists, hitting closer to 7,000 characters. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister and her boyfriend stay in my house for an indefinite period, even though my husband says I'm being unreasonable. I, 32F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 34M, for 8 years. We have 2 children, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old son. We live in a 3-bedroom house in a mid-sized city. It's not huge, but it worked for our family. I work full-time as a teacher, and Jake is an IT consultant. Our house is organized around our routines: school drop-offs, nap schedules, meal times, and work-from-home days, and we've built our home to function efficiently for just the 4 of us. My sister, Emily, 30F, has had a turbulent few years. She has struggled with steady employment and maintaining her own living situation. Her boyfriend, Mark, 31M, also has an unstable job history, though he occasionally does contract work. Last month, Emily and Mark lost their apartment because they couldn't pay rent. They called me and said they had nowhere to go and asked if they could move in temporarily until they got back on their feet. Emily said it might be a few weeks, just long enough to get some stability. I was shocked because I wasn't expecting this. I love my sister, but our house isn't set up to accommodate 2 extra adults, especially since we have 2 young children and 1 guest bedroom. I explained that while I wanted to help, our home is not big enough for them to stay long-term and that we needed to discuss alternatives. I offered to help them find a short-term rental, cover part of a deposit, and help them search for jobs. I also suggested they could stay for 1 or 2 nights, if necessary, while I helped them get sorted. Emily and Mark were upset. Emily said I was not a family person and that I was being selfish. Mark said I was overcomplicating things and making mountains out of molehills. Jake, surprisingly, immediately sided with them, saying that since they were family and had nowhere else to go, they should just be allowed to stay. He said I was too rigid and that I was putting comfort above helping family. I tried explaining that helping doesn't always mean hosting, that our home is designed for 4 people, and that adding 2 adults with unstable habits could create serious stress for everyone, especially the kids. Jake said I was overthinking and that I needed to just open my door. Despite my concerns, Emily and Mark arrived a few days later with their belongings, expecting to stay for an indefinite period. Initially, I tried to manage. They took the guest room and used part of the living room for their things. However, it quickly became apparent that this would be far from temporary. They began leaving dishes in the sink, raiding our fridge without asking, and using the living space in ways that disrupted our routines. Emily criticized the way I parent, constantly giving advice about discipline, screen time, and meal choices. Mark started borrowing our car without asking and invited friends over without consulting us. I tried setting boundaries calmly and respectfully. I asked them to clean up after themselves, respect our routines, and not use our things without permission. They agreed initially, but kept breaking the rules. Emily accused me of being controlling, and Mark said I was too uptight. Jake again defended them, saying I was being mean and that I was overreacting. I reminded him that it's not about being mean. It's about maintaining a functional household and protecting our children from chaos. The situation worsened when Emily and Mark started expecting me to take care of their kids while they went out to look for work or run errands, often for hours at a time. I explained that I have my own children and responsibilities and cannot take care of additional kids indefinitely. Emily said I was not being supportive and refusing to help her family, while Jake accused me of being selfish and unsympathetic. It has been nearly 4 weeks now, and they still haven't made arrangements for their own place. Their presence has caused constant tension in the house. Jake and I argue multiple times a day about what to do. My kids are picking up on the stress, and I feel exhausted from enforcing rules that are ignored. I have tried helping Emily and Mark in other ways, searching for apartments, offering money toward rent or deposits, helping them apply for jobs, and even looking at temporary Airbnb options. Nothing has satisfied them or Jake, who insists that letting them stay indefinitely is the right thing to do. Friends and some family say I am right to set boundaries and prioritize the stability of my household. Others say I should just let them stay because family should always come first. I feel guilty because I want to help Emily, but I also feel trapped, frustrated, and emotionally drained by the ongoing situation. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her boyfriend stay in my house indefinitely, even though my husband thinks I'm being unreasonable and says I'm selfish for setting boundaries. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding after she insulted my lifestyle choices and tried to control my property. I, 32F, have lived in my house for about 5 years. I inherited it from my grandparents, and it's very important to me because it's full of family history. I've spent years renovating it, and it's now a reflection of my personal style and personality. My younger sister, Emily, 29F, is engaged, and she has always been a bit entitled and competitive. About 6 months ago, Emily asked if she could use my house for her wedding. She said it would be perfect and that everyone would love it. I explained that while I loved her, I wasn't comfortable letting her use my home for such an important event. I told her she could come over and look for ideas, but the house itself is private and not for large events. She started pressuring me immediately, saying things like, "It's just one day, you'll barely notice it," and "I can't believe you'd refuse your own sister." I stood firm. Then things escalated. Emily started making comments about my lifestyle and my house, implying that I was being selfish. She would say things like, "It's just a house, you're so dramatic," or "I guess decorating your space exactly how you want it make you more important than family." She also started making digs at my personal life, bringing up my unmarried status, and calling me boring for spending so much time at home rather than traveling like she does. About 3 months ago, she went even further. During a family dinner, she loudly told everyone that I was too controlling and selfish, and that I had ruined her dream wedding by refusing my house. I tried to explain calmly that the house has sentimental value and that I wanted her to find a venue that she could have full control over, but she dismissed it. She even suggested that I was being petty because I don't have a wedding of my own. After that dinner, she began sending me passive-aggressive texts and emails like, "I just don't understand how you can care more about furniture than family," and "maybe you should move out of your grandparents' house if you're so attached to it." She tried to guilt-trip me, claiming that our parents were disappointed in me and that I was making life hard for everyone. I did offer compromises. I suggested helping her decorate a venue, reviewing seating charts, or helping with ideas for flowers and photos. I even offered to host a small pre-wedding event in my backyard, which is much more controlled and doesn't interfere with my home. She refused all of these offers and insisted that if she couldn't have my house, I was jealous and vindictive. Some family members have taken her side, saying things like, "It's just one day, why can't you compromise?" and "You're making this about yourself." Others understand that a house is deeply personal and that no one should pressure someone to hand over their private space for such a major event. I feel stuck because I want to maintain a relationship with Emily and the rest of the family, but I also feel strongly that my boundaries and property rights should be respected. To make matters worse, she has started posting vague things on social media about sisters who aren't supportive and don't care about family. And I've had relatives contacting me, asking if I'm really refusing to help. I keep repeating that I am happy to support her in other ways, but my refusal to let her use my home is the sticking point. I feel guilty because I don't want to create tension during wedding season, but I also feel like she has completely disregarded my feelings, tried to manipulate family opinions against me, and insulted my personal choices. I've been patient, tried to compromise, and made alternative suggestions, yet she continues to insist that I'm wrong and selfish. Aaron, my partner, has been fully supportive, saying that my feelings are valid and that the house is mine to decide about. I know it's a big ask for a wedding, but it's my home, my space, and I feel that giving in would only encourage more boundary violations in the future. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding after she insulted my lifestyle choices and tried to control my property. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded me from the planning process. So, this is a long one, and I really need an outside perspective because my family is split on this, and even my friends are divided. I, 29F, have a younger sister, 26F, who recently got engaged. Let's call her Emma. From the beginning, Emma and I have had a complicated relationship. We were very close growing up, but as adults, she's become extremely particular about how things should be done, and I guess I just can't seem to follow her rules without it turning into a big drama. When Emma got engaged, she was over the moon and immediately started talking about her wedding plans. From the start, she was very vocal about wanting it to be a family-funded event and that she expected contributions from our parents and siblings. Our parents are comfortable financially and agreed to contribute, but I have always been the one who has been asked to cover more than my fair share because I earn a decent salary. I'm fine with helping, but the way she went about this made me uncomfortable. A few weeks after the engagement, Emma invited me over to discuss wedding logistics. I was excited and expected a casual chat about dates and venues, maybe even dress shopping. Instead, she handed me a spreadsheet with every single expense listed, including an estimated cost for me to cover. Some of the line items included things like her bridal shower, rehearsal dinner, honeymoon contributions, and even miscellaneous decorations. At first, I laughed thinking she was joking, but no. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "This is what you owe. We really hope you can pay your part." I was stunned. I asked if this was negotiable or if we could figure out something more flexible, and she said flatly, "Not really. This is what we need from everyone." I tried to explain that I wasn't in a position to fund multiple large events and that I felt excluded from the planning process, so I didn't feel like it was fair to just hand over money for decisions I had no say in. She got visibly upset and accused me of trying to control the wedding and being selfish. After that conversation, I tried to step back. I didn't attend every planning meeting and declined to make any financial commitments beyond a small gift. Meanwhile, other family members continued to contribute, and Emma started sending me passive-aggressive messages about my lack of support and sisterly duties. I ignored most of them, but one particularly heated text got me thinking I might need to clarify my stance. She accused me of actively trying to ruin her wedding by refusing to help financially. I decided to sit her down and have an honest conversation. I explained that I was happy to help with moral support to attend events and even help with some minor tasks like addressing invitations or making DIY decorations, but I was not comfortable paying for events I had no say in. I reminded her that I felt excluded when she made decisions without consulting me, yet still expected financial contributions. Her reaction was explosive. She yelled that I was selfish and cheap and that I was breaking the family apart. Our parents got involved at this point, with Mom saying I should just pay and stop making a big deal out of it. Dad was a bit more understanding, saying he saw both sides, but he didn't intervene further. My siblings have mostly stayed out of it, though one commented that Emma has always had a sense of entitlement. The situation escalated when Emma started publicly posting on social media about her wedding dream team and tagged everyone who was helping financially. I wasn't tagged. Instead, I saw indirect posts about disappointing siblings and how some people just don't care about family. This hurt because I love my sister, but I also felt disrespected and pushed into a corner. Fast forward to the wedding day. I attended, wore a dress I bought myself, and tried to stay neutral. However, Emma barely spoke to me, and when she did, it was curt and icy. After the ceremony, she thanked everyone who contributed financially during her speech, which felt like a subtle jab. I wasn't mentioned. A few guests came up to me afterward, asking if I was upset, and I explained the situation, which sparked some awkward sympathy from extended family. Since then, my sister has refused to speak to me normally, only sending curt texts when necessary. She posted a few pictures on social media, tagging other contributors, but not me. I didn't comment or post about the wedding, partly out of principle and partly because I was hurt. Our parents have told me to just let it go, but I feel like I'm being punished for standing up for myself. Some friends have said I'm overreacting and that weddings are supposed to be supported financially by family, while others say I'm completely justified in refusing to pay for something I wasn't involved in planning. I feel caught between wanting to support my sister emotionally and protecting my boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded me from the planning process and is now treating me as if I ruined it. Character count, 6,492. Would you like me to create another one with a slightly more dramatic twist to increase that viral Reddit appeal? AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of his fiancée? I, 28F, have always been close to my family, especially my younger brother, Jake, 25M. Growing up, we were inseparable, and even after moving out for college and work, we kept in touch almost daily. Our parents have always been supportive of us, though they could be a bit traditional. About a year ago, Jake started dating someone named Claire, 27F. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I wanted to give her a chance, not be that sibling who automatically dislikes their partner. The first few months, I mostly stayed out of their business and let them have their space. But over time, I began noticing things that made me uncomfortable. It started with little things, like Claire constantly making jokes at my brother's expense, often in front of his friends or family. Sometimes it was harmless teasing, but it was always at his expense, and he didn't ever push back. Other times, she would make subtle digs at me, like commenting on my choice of career or questioning why I wasn't married yet. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was just sensitive. Then things escalated. Last Christmas, she took over the family dinner planning. She insisted that all traditional dishes be replaced with recipes she found online, disregarding our family's recipes that have been passed down for generations. I tried to compromise, suggesting we do a mix, but she flat out refused and said she wanted a modern family Christmas and that old traditions are boring. My parents were polite, but clearly uncomfortable. A few weeks after Christmas, Jake proposed Claire, and she immediately began pushing for a large destination wedding. My family and I were expected to foot some of the expenses, which was stressful, but something we could manage. The issue, though, wasn't the money. It was the conditions she attached. She sent a detailed list of rules for guests months in advance, including strict dress codes, restrictions on bringing children, and very pointed comments about who was appropriate to sit with whom. Some of the rules were directly targeting me, like no seating near Claire's friends, even though they were mutual acquaintances. At first, I tried to handle it diplomatically. I spoke to Jake privately, explaining that I felt uncomfortable with Claire's behavior and the way she was treating me and my family. I stressed that I wanted to be supportive of their wedding, but I couldn't ignore the way she had been manipulating or belittling people. Jake got defensive and said I was overreacting, that Claire was just assertive, and that I needed to get along with her if I wanted to be part of their lives. I tried again at his birthday dinner. I mentioned that I had been hurt by some of the comments she made, and that I felt she was trying to control situations in ways that weren't fair. Jake dismissed it again, saying I needed to pick my battles and that Claire was stressed about the wedding. At this point, I realized that no matter what I said, Jake was going to side with Claire. Fast forward to a few months ago, I was at a small family gathering, and Claire made a very public comment about me that really crossed a line. She said, in front of about 20 people, that I shouldn't complain about being single because nobody would want to date someone as controlling and selfish as me. I was stunned and embarrassed. I excused myself, and my parents later apologized, saying they couldn't believe she said that. I texted Jake about it, and he said I was taking it too personally and that she didn't mean it in that way. Since then, I've had almost no contact with Claire, aside from polite hellos when we're in the same room. Jake still texts me regularly, but I started to realize that attending their wedding would mean being in the same space as someone who had openly insulted me and had shown no effort to make amends. I felt like my only options were to either pretend everything was okay for the sake of appearances or stand my ground. A few weeks ago, I told Jake that I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I explained that I loved him and wanted him to be happy, but I couldn't be around Claire without feeling disrespected and hurt. I offered to celebrate with him privately before or after the wedding, but I couldn't go to the ceremony or reception. Jake lost it. He accused me of being selfish, trying to ruin his special day, and not supporting his choices. Our parents are upset too, saying that I'm overreacting and letting my emotions ruin family harmony. I've gotten texts from extended family saying things like, you should put your feelings aside for your brother, and this is his day, not yours. I still feel that attending would be a huge compromise of my boundaries, but I also feel guilty for disappointing my family and hurting my brother on what should be one of the happiest days of his life. I haven't received any apology from Claire for any of the incidents, and Jake has made it clear he doesn't see her behavior as problematic. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of his fiancée? Character count, 6,394. AITA for refusing to let my cousin stay with us indefinitely after she lost her apartment, even though my partner thinks I'm being heartless? I, 31F, live with my partner, Chris, 33M, in a 3-bedroom apartment in a fairly expensive city. We've been together for 7 years and have a stable life. Both of us have steady jobs. I work in finance, and Chris works as a software engineer. We also have a dog and a cat, and our home is very structured around our routines, work schedules, and pet care. My cousin, Lily, 29F, has always had a pattern of instability. She bounces between jobs, rarely saves money, and has moved in with different friends and family over the past few years. Recently, she lost her apartment because she didn't pay her rent. She called me, saying she had nowhere to go and asked if she could stay for a little while until she figured something out. She didn't specify exactly how long, but from her tone, it seemed like a few days or a week. I was sympathetic, but I knew the reality. Our apartment is small, and adding another adult, especially one with a history of instability, could disrupt our routines and space. I told her that we could help, but she couldn't stay indefinitely. I offered to help her find a short-term rental, cover part of a deposit, help her with job applications, and even give her some financial assistance for necessities. I also said she could stay for a night or two while we arrange these things, but that's it. Lily immediately started arguing. She said that family should always help family, and that she didn't have time to deal with Airbnb or applications right now. She accused me of being cold and selfish, saying that I was putting my comfort above helping her. Chris, surprisingly, immediately sided with Lily. He said it was ridiculous to deny family a place to stay when they were in crisis, and that I was overthinking everything and being heartless. He said I was prioritizing convenience over compassion. I explained that my refusal wasn't about being heartless. It was about sustainability and boundaries. Our home is designed for 2 people, a dog, and a cat, not 3 adults. I mentioned that past experiences with Lily moving in temporarily often became long-term stays, which created tension, financial strain, and emotional stress. Chris dismissed this, saying that things would be fine and that I was being too rigid. Despite my objections, Lily arrived with a small suitcase the next day. She immediately started taking over the living space, leaving her things in the living room, using our kitchen extensively without asking, and generally acting as if she lived there permanently. At first, I tried to maintain patience. I set boundaries. She could not take over our bedroom, could not leave her belongings scattered in common areas, and had to follow our kitchen and cleaning routines. Lily agreed verbally, but immediately started ignoring these rules. She started using our bathroom for long periods, leaving towels and personal items everywhere, and complaining that our home felt too restrictive. Chris began to defend her behavior. He said I was too controlling and that she's stressed and needs flexibility. Lily started asking for money for food, claiming she didn't have enough to eat, even though I'd already offered to buy groceries and help her budget for a short-term stay. I reminded her that we are already helping in multiple ways and that she needed to take responsibility and find her own place. She accused me of being unsupportive and uncaring. Chris again sided with her, saying I was being unreasonable and selfish. The situation escalated further when Lily began inviting friends over without asking, using our shower excessively, and leaving dirty dishes in the sink. She even tried to reorganize parts of our apartment, claiming it would be more efficient. I had to repeatedly enforce boundaries, reminding her that she is a guest, not a roommate, and that our home operates on specific routines. Lily and Chris both argued with me, saying I was being too harsh and not understanding her situation. It has now been 3 weeks since Lily arrived. She still hasn't made any arrangements for alternative housing, despite my repeated offers to help her find short-term rentals, jobs, or financial aid. The tension in our apartment is palpable. Chris and I argue multiple times daily, Our routines are disrupted, and even our pets are stressed by the constant presence of a third adult. I feel emotionally drained and trapped, as my attempts to help her responsibly are dismissed by both Lily and Chris. Some friends and family say I am justified in setting boundaries and protecting my home and mental health. Others say I should just let her stay because she is family and in a tough spot. I feel guilty because I want to help Lily, but I also know that letting her stay indefinitely would create chaos and stress for everyone in the household. So, AITA for refusing to let my cousin stay with us indefinitely after she lost her apartment. Even though my partner thinks I'm being heartless and selfish for setting boundaries. AITA for refusing to pay for my stepbrother's extravagant bachelor party after he criticized my parenting and lifestyle. I, 33F, have been married to my husband, Mark, 35M, for 7 years. We have 2 kids, ages 5 and 2. We live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle and are very conscious about budgeting. My husband has a younger half-brother, Jason, 28M, from his father's second marriage. Jason has always been a bit entitled and competitive, and he's used to having his family cater to his whims. Jason got engaged last year, and, as is tradition in his social circle, he immediately started planning a large bachelor party. From the beginning, he expected Mark and me to contribute a significant portion of the cost. I told him that while I wanted him to have a fun celebration, we weren't in a position to spend thousands of dollars on a party we wouldn't even attend. I offered to help with planning logistics or host a smaller pre-party gathering that fit within our budget, but he dismissed that and insisted that if we weren't paying, we weren't really family. The tension escalated when he started making comments about my parenting. Jason frequently posts on social media about his wild lifestyle, partying, and dating experiences. He criticized me for being boring and controlling with my kids. He said things like, "No wonder your kids are so uptight. You're raising them in a bubble, and you probably never have fun because you're glued to your little domestic life." I tried to ignore it at first, but his comments became more pointed, especially when he tried to guilt Mark and me into funding his party. About 2 months ago, Jason directly confronted me. He said, "You're such a stick in the mud. You don't understand how to live, and now you're trying to ruin my bachelor party because you can't have fun. Maybe if you loosened up, your kids wouldn't be so miserable." He even accused me of taking away his family because I wasn't contributing financially. I was shocked and angry. I reminded him that parenting and partying are entirely separate things, and that my family life is my choice, just as his is his. Despite my attempts to stay calm, he continued to pressure me. He sent messages like, "I guess you don't care about family memories, and you're proving that you don't really love me or care about Mark." It reached a point where he started spreading these complaints to other family members, framing me as mean, selfish, and unsupportive, which led to multiple relatives reaching out to me, asking why I wouldn't contribute to a celebration. I've tried to find a middle ground. I offered to buy him a smaller gift, help him plan a fun but budget-conscious activity, and even suggested he host a party at a public venue where he could invite friends without burdening anyone financially. He refused all of these options, insisting that anything short of a lavish party we funded ourselves was unacceptable. My husband is fully supportive of my decision, reminding me that Jason's behavior is inappropriate and that no one is obligated to pay for someone else's extravagant desires. However, I still feel guilty because Jason is technically family, and I don't want to be seen as the villain in front of our relatives. My in-laws are split. Some think I should contribute to avoid family drama, while others agree that Jason's demands are unreasonable. Since refusing to pay, Jason has been passive-aggressive at family gatherings, making snide remarks like, "Some people just don't know how to celebrate life," and "I guess money is more important than family." It's created tension between me and the extended family, and I worry it will have long-term consequences, especially as wedding plans continue. I feel caught between protecting my family and finances and maintaining harmony within a family that already seems very entitled and competitive. I've made repeated efforts to compromise, but every attempt has been met with hostility or outright dismissal. I worry that giving in now would set a precedent that he can pressure us financially anytime he wants, which I don't want. So, AITA for refusing to pay for my stepbrother's extravagant bachelor party after he criticized my parenting and lifestyle. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my fiancé. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Laura, 32F. Growing up, she was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect everything. I was the quieter, more introverted one who constantly felt overshadowed. Over the years, our relationship has improved, but there's always been an undercurrent of tension. Our parents have largely ignored it, dismissing it as typical sibling rivalry. Fast forward to a few years ago, I met my fiancé, Daniel, 30M. Daniel is wonderful, kind, patient, and funny. I was head over heels in love with him, and he quickly became a part of my family's life. Almost immediately, though, Laura seemed to dislike him. At first, I brushed it off as typical sisterly teasing, but it soon became clear that her behavior went deeper. Laura would make passive-aggressive comments whenever Daniel was around. Things like, "Oh, you actually eat that? Interesting choice," or, "I guess that's one way to dress for the party." Nothing overtly mean, just these little digs that always seemed targeted. She never said anything like this to anyone else, just Daniel. At first, I tried to defend him quietly, but my parents would wave it off, saying he should just toughen up. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up because I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells. 2 years ago, Daniel proposed, and I was ecstatic. I immediately wanted Laura to be involved in the wedding planning because, despite our issues, she's still my sister. I thought maybe including her would soften her behavior, or at least make her feel respected. I was wrong. From the moment we announced our engagement, she started making demands about the wedding. It began with minor things, like insisting her friends sit in the front row, even though she wasn't in the bridal party, and criticizing my choice of caterer. Then it escalated. She began giving unsolicited advice about my dress, saying it didn't suit me because Daniel deserves someone who looks perfect on his wedding day, which felt like a direct attack on both me and Daniel. Things came to a head last month. My parents hosted a pre-wedding brunch, and Laura decided to invite a few of her friends. When Daniel arrived, she made a joke about him not being wedding material and laughed as her friends joined in. I tried to intervene politely, but she doubled down, saying, "I'm just trying to be honest. Don't get so sensitive." My parents didn't defend us. They actually said I should just let her speak her mind. After that incident, I confronted her privately. I told her that her comments were hurtful and that if she wanted to maintain a relationship with me, she needed to respect Daniel. She responded by saying, "I don't dislike Daniel. I just can't help pointing out the obvious. You're just being dramatic." That was the final straw for me. I spoke with Daniel, and we both agreed that attending the wedding with Laura behaving like this would be toxic. We suggested a few ways for her to apologize or at least tone down her behavior, but she refused. She insisted that everything she did was harmless honesty, and that if we didn't like it, we were being unreasonable. So, I made the decision not to attend the wedding. I told my parents that I loved my sister, but I couldn't be in an environment where my fiancé would be treated this way. I also offered to have a separate celebration with Laura later, without Daniel present, but she declined, saying that was ridiculous and childish. Now, my parents and extended family are furious. They say I'm overreacting and that family should stick together, no matter what. Laura has been posting passive-aggressive messages on social media, painting me as selfish and uncaring. My friends and Daniel support me, but my parents won't even speak to me properly. I feel trapped because I don't want to cause family drama, but I also can't compromise on respect for my fiancé. I'm starting to second-guess myself because everyone keeps saying I'm being unreasonable, but at the same time, I genuinely believe that attending the wedding would have been emotionally damaging for both Daniel and me. I just don't want to be painted as the villain here. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my fiancé. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in with us temporarily, even though he's in a tough spot. I, 28F, live in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city with my partner, Alex, 30M. We've been together for about 6 years and live pretty comfortably, though space is definitely limited. About 2 months ago, my younger sister, Emily, 25F, started dating a guy named Ben. Emily and I have always been close, and she's generally been upfront about her life with me. A couple of weeks ago, Emily called me in tears, saying that Ben's apartment situation had gone completely south. Apparently, he had been living in a shared apartment that fell through because his roommate got evicted, and now he's temporarily homeless. She asked if he could stay with Alex and me for a week or two while he figured things out. I was immediately hesitant because our apartment is very small, and adding a third adult would make it almost impossible to function normally. I told Emily that I needed to think about it. I started weighing the options. On one hand, I felt for Ben and didn't want to leave him stranded. On the other hand, our place is literally 2 bedrooms, one of which is Alex and mine, and the other is mostly used for storage in my home office. I also thought about the dynamic. I don't know Ben well at all, and having a stranger in our personal space for even a couple of weeks sounded stressful. I told Emily that I didn't think it would work for us to host him. I suggested alternative solutions. She could help him find a cheap short-term sublet, or I could help him look for a hostel or Airbnb. She seemed disappointed, but said she understood, at least on the phone. A few days later, she called back and asked if we could make an exception, saying, "It's really hard for him right now. I just don't see where else he could go, and I feel awful asking, but I'm desperate." I told her that I still didn't think it would be a good idea. She started crying and accusing me of not supporting her relationship or being selfish. She said, "If you really cared about me and cared about family, you'd just say yes. It's only a couple of weeks. It's not like he's a bad person." Alex was supportive of my decision, but he also pointed out that saying no might upset Emily for a long time. He suggested maybe setting some boundaries, like him staying in a hotel or only coming for nights, but even that felt like it would create chaos in our small apartment. I tried to explain my reasoning to Emily calmly. I told her that having a stranger in our already cramped apartment would affect both our work schedules and our privacy. I reminded her that Ben and I barely know each other, and we're not financially able to take on extra people's rent or bills. I also mentioned that our couch isn't a long-term sleeping solution, and we don't have any extra beds. She argued that we don't need a bed, he can sleep on the floor, which honestly made me frustrated because it completely ignored the other issues like space, privacy, and boundaries. The conversation escalated quickly. Emily accused me of being cold and cruel and of not caring about her relationship. She said, "I can't believe you would let someone suffer when you could help. You're literally the only person who can do this for us." I tried to keep my voice calm, but I ended up saying something I usually avoid. "I care about you, but I don't have to sacrifice my home and mental well-being just because you're desperate." She hung up and sent me a string of messages calling me selfish and a terrible sister. Then she posted a story about it on social media. She tagged me indirectly, so mutual friends saw it, about how some people don't understand what family means and how I was putting my comfort above someone else's real crisis. A bunch of friends messaged me privately asking if I was okay and whether I'd spoken to Emily, which added more stress. I've stuck to my guns and haven't let Ben stay with us. Emily hasn't spoken to me directly for a week, and every time she posts something on social media, it's a subtle dig at me. A couple of mutual friends have said that I should at least let him stay one night to show some compassion, but the idea of it just feels completely unmanageable. Alex keeps telling me that I did the right thing for us, but I can't help feeling guilty because Emily is genuinely in a tough spot and is making me out to be the villain in her story. I also feel conflicted because I don't want to damage our sisterly relationship over this. I don't think my reasons are unreasonable, but the guilt and family tension are getting to me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay with us temporarily, even though he's in a difficult situation. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her family move in with us indefinitely after they lost their home. Even though my husband thinks I'm overreacting, I, 33F, have been married to my husband, Matt, 35M, for 10 years. We have 3 children, 9, 6, and 2. We live in a 4-bedroom house in a suburban area, and while it's cozy, it's perfectly set up for our family. I work as a school counselor, and Matt works in IT. We have routines that revolve around our kids' school, activities, naps, and work schedules. Our house is organized in a way that makes it manageable, though with 3 kids, it can still get chaotic. My sister, Jenna, 31F, has had a rough few years. She lost her job due to downsizing and then had a string of temporary positions that never lasted. Her partner, Alex, 32M, has a history of inconsistent work and financial instability. Recently, Jenna and Alex lost their apartment because they couldn't pay rent. They called and said they had nowhere to go and asked if they could stay with us temporarily until we get back on our feet. I asked what temporarily meant, and Jenna vaguely said a few weeks, but from her tone, it was clear she didn't know herself. I was sympathetic, but immediately concerned. Our house is not huge, and adding 2 adults and 2 kids, plus another baby on the way, would completely disrupt our routines. I told them I wanted to help, but that we couldn't accommodate them long term. I offered alternatives, helping them find a short-term rental, assisting with deposits, helping them search for jobs, and even covering childcare for a few hours so they could attend interviews or appointments. I also said that if they came over, it could only be for a few nights while we worked on permanent arrangements. Jenna immediately became defensive. She said families should stick together in times of crisis, that we should help her because she's my sister, and that refusing to let them stay would be cold and selfish. Alex echoed her, saying it was ridiculous to deny family a place to stay and that Matt and I should just open our home. I tried to explain that my concern was not about being heartless, but about protecting the stability of our home and children. They accused me of caring more about comfort than helping family. Matt, surprisingly, sided with them. He said that since they were family and had nowhere to go, we should let them stay until they were stable again. He accused me of being overly rigid and unsympathetic. I explained that hosting them indefinitely would disrupt our household routines, our kids' schedules, and our family dynamic, which are all carefully structured to maintain sanity. He said I was overreacting and that I was turning my back on family. Despite my protests, Jenna and Alex arrived with all their belongings. They brought their 2 kids and a crib for the baby that's on the way. At first, I tried to manage the situation. They stayed in the guest room, and we rotated living spaces to accommodate everyone. But within a few days, the stress started. They began using our kitchen extensively without asking, leaving dishes piled up, and taking over spaces where our kids' toys and personal items were kept. They frequently criticized our routines, saying we were too strict or controlling. I tried to enforce boundaries calmly, reminding them that our house rules still apply and that our family routines are non-negotiable. Jenna would nod, but ignore the rules immediately afterward. Alex sometimes directly ignored me and said things like, "This is temporary. We should be able to live comfortably here." Matt again defended them, saying I was too harsh and that I was making them feel unwelcome. Things escalated further when they began inviting friends over without asking, borrowing our car, and leaving laundry everywhere. They started expecting me to supervise their kids while they went out for errands or job interviews, sometimes for hours. I reminded them that while I wanted to help, I could not take on full-time childcare for them. They accused me of being uncaring and selfish, and Matt called me unreasonable. It's been nearly 5 weeks now, and they still haven't secured another place. Our house is tense. Matt and I argue constantly about how to handle the situation. The kids are unsettled, our household routines are disrupted, and I'm emotionally drained from trying to maintain order while also helping them. I've tried everything, searching for temporary rentals, offering financial help for deposits, helping with job applications, and even exploring short-term Airbnb options. Nothing has satisfied them, and Matt insists that we should let them stay indefinitely because it's the right thing to do. Friends and some family members say I am right to set boundaries and protect my household. Others say I should just let them stay because they are family and in crisis. I feel guilty because I want to help my sister, but I also feel trapped and stressed, and I worry about the impact on my children and my household. So, AITA, for refusing to let my sister and her family move in with us indefinitely, even though my husband thinks I'm being unreasonable and selfish for setting boundaries. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her unvaccinated children to my son's birthday party after she called me paranoid and overprotective. I, 34F, have a 6-year-old son, Leo, and I'm very careful about his health. He has some mild but chronic health issues that make him more susceptible to infections, so vaccines are a huge priority for our family. I live in a medium-sized city with my husband, Ben, 36M, and we both work full-time. Our circle of family and friends has generally been very understanding of our precautions. My younger sister, Hannah, 30F, has 2 kids, ages 4 and 2. She and her husband have always been skeptical of vaccines, and they have refused to vaccinate both children. I've expressed my concerns before, especially when they visit, but she brushes it off with statements like, "We know what's best for our kids," and "You're just being paranoid." I always thought we could manage it by keeping visits short and avoiding close contact with Leo when he's sick. A few months ago, Leo's birthday was approaching, and I planned a small party at our home with a handful of close friends and family. I wanted it to be safe and manageable, so I kept the guest list limited and included only kids whose vaccinations were up to date. When Hannah asked if her kids could come, I told her that, unfortunately, I couldn't invite them because they're unvaccinated. I explained that Leo's health issues make him more vulnerable, and I wasn't willing to risk exposing him to preventable illnesses. Hannah immediately got defensive. She said I was overreacting and that I was turning my own child into a germophobic bubble child. She said that I was attacking her parenting and that our whole family was ganging up on her for her choices. She even claimed that vaccines aren't 100% effective anyway, so my precautions were pointless. I tried to remain calm and reiterated that it's about risk management and protecting my child, not criticizing her. The day before the party, she sent a long text saying, "I can't believe you're putting a 6-year-old's health above family relationships. Leo doesn't even understand germs yet. You're being selfish, and the kids are going to feel excluded because of your paranoia." She ended the message by saying she wouldn't attend the party herself, either because being in the same house where we're considered unsafe is ridiculous. Some family members started pressuring me. My mom called and said, "You should let the kids come. It's just one party. Leo will survive." My father said something similar, implying I was overreacting and creating unnecessary drama. A few cousins also suggested I just let it slide for the sake of family harmony. I understand where they're coming from, but I feel strongly that my son's health comes first. On the day of the party, I went ahead with my plans. I kept the group small and made sure that all guests were vaccinated. Leo had a great time, and no incidents occurred. However, Hannah posted on social media about how cruel and controlling my sister is for not letting her children attend, and tagged several family members. This has sparked arguments in family group chats, with some people calling me selfish and paranoid, while others have expressed support and said I was completely within my rights. Hannah has since refused to see Leo outside of special occasions, claiming that she doesn't feel safe being around a family that judges our parenting. I feel guilty because I don't want to alienate my sister or create lasting tension, but I also cannot compromise on my child's health. Ben is completely supportive of my decision and says that boundaries are necessary, especially when it comes to medical safety. I've tried explaining multiple times that this isn't personal. It's about medical risk, but she refuses to accept it and continues to frame me as overbearing and controlling. Other relatives are starting to take sides, and I feel stuck in the middle of a growing family dispute. I have no intention of changing my stance, but I also don't want the situation to permanently damage my relationship with my sister or the rest of the family. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her unvaccinated children to my son's birthday party after she called me paranoid and overprotective. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.